Now we're good.
We're good to go?
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, so this is kind of an idea that I was talking about with Kellen is like, hey, I get a lot of questions about, why do I run X card over Y? And can you tell me the differences between your tech and the other people's tech and all the other red names and everything? And so I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of just go through my list and like tell you the niche stuff, why I play certain cards over the other ones and why you should consider them, and not necessarily say like my decisions are better, because they're really not. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of subjective criticism to everything, because I play all of these cards because they fit my play style. And I think that's the coolest thing, and like one of the hardest things about Dardu is that you really have to find your play style and the way that fits best to you. It's really hard to just copy a list and then have the same results that, like in me, Kellen, Mikey, Sylvie, or any other red names have. So I just kind of wanted to go through my list, talk about why I make the decisions I make, and then, leave the floor open for questions. Is there anything before I start? I
Just
know we
that
got.
we're both gonna do essentially because we have two different lists. That
Yep.
it's really more for the whole broad spectrum. I also want to be very clear that all the opinions that we have here are, like, as you already mentioned, they're subjective for the most part. Like, there are some things where it's like, well, I don't think we should run Badlands. Okay, well, okay, that's objectively wrong. But for a lot of these cards, especially the ones that are like the differences between our decks, I would say, like, look, these are just our opinions. These are not the set in stone ways. If you like the explanation or you're like, I don't think that makes sense, that's fine. But these are like, Joey and I have been around this deck a long time. So a lot of these opinions are not just like willy nilly, we're just saying it just because we think it's like whatever. There's a lot of logic that goes behind it as well. So take everything with an open mind of, okay, I may not agree with it, but I understand where he's coming from, kind of thing. And none of this is objective fact. It's just these are all opinions that we have. Oh, other than that,
Yeah, beautifully said. I think in the sake of time, because I want to go through Kellen's list also. I'm just gonna kind of breeze over all the commonality cards. Like I'm not going to explain why we play Ruthless Technomancer or Badlands, like you said before, but I am going to talk about some of the more niche stuff and the smaller decisions, if you will. We'll just go down the list here. You can see my screen, right? Everything's good.
let me check just to. Yes.
Sweet. Okay. We'll start with Memnite. I believe this was brought up by Brian or Avery, one of them. Memnite to me is amazing. Free Timna attacker, artifact from Opal, sack Sudargo. You can sack it to beseech. It just does a lot of things. Triggers Lothos. It does a lot of things that we want to do in the list. It also and again, I'm gonna kind of go deep dive into niche stuff, but I'm gonna skip all the basic shit. So we'll be able to kind of consolidate this for like, we'll call it like a higher level of Dargo knowledge. That's what I'll say. But other niche scenarios from Midnight is like if you're on like an Adnaz, or if you're on like you've just drawn a lot of cards of some sort with one of our master effects. It's pretty easy to convert a Memnite with another card like an Infernal Plunge, or like a Culling the Weak, because it costs 0. Like a lot of the time, you just need a body to sack. So it lets you convert some of these rituals, or even like this Diabolic Intent to convert one of your lines that you need to look for. But yeah, Midnight's good. We'll skip Esper Sentinel, great card. I think the Treasure Dorks are pretty locked in at this point, so I'll skip those. Hope of Gearper, I see some people every now and then, they'll be like, hey, why are we playing this card? I think it's crazy to consider cutting it. It's a legendary for Relic. It flies, an artifact for the same reasons that Memnite's really, really good. Again, it can silence somebody. It's a flying Timna attacker, and its floor is 2 Dargo mana. I think Hope of Gearper is really, really good. Uh, I would, if you're talking to me, I would like a really, really good reason for you not to be playing it. Uh,
I would
Impulsive
agree.
Pilfer, yeah, Impulsive Pilfer, Treasure Dork, same thing. They're very, very good. Marty Devotee, I think you have to be playing the list a little bit to understand the power of this card. We talk about it all the time. This is like one of our niche cards and very particular to our deck. If you're outside of the community, you're not going to get it, but I assume if you're listening to this, you will. So yeah, good card. Ragavan, nothing said there. Good. Same thing. Treasure Dork, good. All right, Citrus Supplier. I feel like this is one of the cards that I kind of have to fight for a lot of the time. One of the reasons why I like it is because it leans. So I'm a turbo player. That's what I like to do. I like to find very, very tight niche lines, and I like to try to win the game early, but at the same time, I like to be able to pick and choose windows, which is why I love this deck. The reason why I like Citrus Supplier is because Citrus Supplier kind of plays into both of the different aspects of this deck. It's a 1 drop for Timna. I'm going to continuously say this about all the creatures. Every creature can attack, and it's great. In addition to Citrus Supplier, is typically people are not going to block Citrus Supplier because you mill cards is really, really good, right? We play Altar of the Wretched, we play Hoarding Broodlord, I play Reanimate. That's another thing I'll get into a little bit later. But we play all of these graveyard synergies that make it to where a lot of the time, if we're milling 3 cards, then those are cards that we're probably going to have access to anyway. So I've actually found it where people won't block this card. So a lot of the time, this is a guarantee. Like this essentially has Death Touch. This is a guaranteed Timna draw from the majority of my games. In addition, this card is the backbone to most of my turn 2 breach plays. Because a lot of the time, I'll look at a hand that's like, we'll call it like some kind of rock, like let's say like a Mox Diamond, a I don't know, a Demonic Tutor, and like an LED, right? And so like what I'm able to do is I'm able to go turn 1 Demonic Tutor for breach, and then I can go turn 2, play LED, play breach, sacrifice the LED for 3 black demonic tutor, and I can find Stitcher Supplier, and it's an easy transition into play Stitcher, mill. Now I can play my LED again because I've milled 3 cards. I can crack my LED for 3 red. Now I can play a Dargo, which mills another 3 because I'm stacking the Stitchers. And then I can play the LED again. Hopefully I have cards where I can go into a Stitcher line again, so I'll have 2 red. I can play an LED. I'll get another 3 black off of that, play a Stitcher. And then at that point, I'm milling what 3, 6, 9. I'm milling 12 cards. And this deck that has so many graveyard synergies and so many ways to, sacrifice or fill yards, you're bound to find something, right?
So, so
So
before you keep going on this, I know that you want to emphasize like the differences between our two mentalities on cards, just because a lot of the cards that you've mentioned we're both running. So if
yeah,
you want to just compare our two lists and just say, here's why I'm running this and not these. If that makes sense.
okay,
'Cause
okay,
I just want to be very clear. Uh, he's right about Stitchers. It's like one of the best breach cards you can run right now. Uh, I'd run it over Grinding Station 10 out of 10 times. But yeah, like since this is an emphasis on differences between the two decks, go ahead and just compare our two decks and see where like why this and not these kind of thing. Because there's
oh,
definitely
okay,
differences in your list that I'm like, okay, like you're gonna have to explain to a lot of people why you would run that and I would not.
okay. That I guess that makes more sense. I think I had a different idea of what I was going into. I mean, this is fine too. Like this is essentially what we're doing. This is just probably an easier way to look at it, I guess if I would say. Um, Ooh, actually, do you have the link to your lists
I already,
handy?
you know what? Yeah, I can. I will share it with you. I already have the compared also pulled up. If you want to just do that, but I'll send it to you right now.
Oh yeah, we could do that too. If you want to start your stream, I'll stop mine.
Okay.
Whatever works.
Yeah, but you're still talking about your stuff. Like this is definitely your time. Let me know if you
Yep, yep.
cannot see it.
Let me watch this one. Yep, I can see. Okay.
Perfect.
Damn, I didn't realize we were that much off. Okay, that's crazy.
And that's what I dude. I did the compare. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I thought we were like a
Damn.
lot closer to this.
Yeah, 15 cards. It's kind of. I mean, but it looks like you're testing a lot of shit.
There's two cards I'm testing right now.
Okay. Well,
Most of this is like it's in, like it's happening. But I think
yeah.
that there's the main ones that I want to ask you about personally are Knuckles, Squelcher, and a Johnny. But those are the
All
three
right.
I am going to ask you about later. But please continue with your explanation on like the cards that are differences, because I think a lot of the cards that you mentioned are like no one's going to debate uh unless you're a freaking cut like devotee. Uh, like no one's going to debate Esper Sentinel, right? Like if you're not running Esper Sentinel and
Yeah.
you're not actually you also really mentioned another one. If you're not running Hope, why? That card is everything we could want in a one drop, like in almost every facet of the game. So I agree with your assessment on that as well. But let's just talk about the differences. So we can go top to bottom if you'd like, or we can start with ones that you want to emphasize. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I think this is good. If you can scroll down just a little bit so I can see yeah, like that's perfect. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So it looks like one to one comparisons is going to be a little weird here, but I think that's what we'll try to do.
No, you don't have to do one-to-one
So the
comparisons. I just want you to explain why you're running the card. So, like, we're already on redirect lightning. Why redirect? Why redirect lightning?
got you. Okay. Okay. So you're yeah, yeah. Okay, we could do it like that. We could do it like that for sure. Um okay, so 15 cards different between mine and Kellen's lists. It looks like he's playing a lot more kind of I would call it I'll call it big mana off the top of my head. It's looks like it's a lot of threes and stuff. But okay, well yeah, we'll start with redirect lightning here. So the reason why I've been kind of a fan of redirect lightning is because a lot of the time, so like Orm's Chant, right? Like I'm not gonna sit here and tell you Orm's Chant's a bad card. And obviously, because I know I'm not on it and I'm not seeing it in the differences, Kellen's not on it either. But the reason why I make that comparison is because like Orm's Chant is a card that looks like a silence, but a lot of the time it really just says one mana, don't die to Ral or don't die to Roxai or something, right? It saves the game. You're playing it defensively rather than proactively. And the reason why I've been liking Redirect Lightning is because all of the things that we fall victim to, like let's say that I've established a Grand Abolisher and now I'm going through a Dargo loop, but there's a Ristic Study out on the battlefield or something, right? The reason why I've like Redirect Lightning is because the only thing that I have to worry about at that point is like an Otawara or a Beseiju. And Redirect Lightning shores that up. If I have that in my hand, I know that I'm good, and there's no other thing to think about. Or even it's just like it still does all the things I need to do. If I cast a spell, somebody goes to counter it, I can Redirect Lightning it. It saves and protects what it is that I'm trying to do, which in this deck is most likely extremely powerful and is going to win me the game. So it just the reason why I like Redirect Lightning over some of the other like targeted silence effects, some of the other interaction, like we'll say like Pyroblast or something, is because it protects against the very niche things that are hard to protect against already, and it still protects the things that those other protection pieces would be protecting anyway. Um,
I
we'll
like that.
call that one good. I guess we'll save questions for the end. We'll go to Entomb. I feel like Entomb is a card that I talk about all the time. The Entomb is one mana, find whatever you want, put it into the graveyard. And the same thing of why I was like glazing Citrus Supplier over and over again is because like, I think this deck has a lot of graveyard synergies that we should be leaning into. And Entomb is just a one mana tutor that helps us do that. You know, you could find a Savines, you could find an Altar the Wretched. If you play a Ruthless Technomancer, you could find a Jolly Balloon Man to immediately do the line. It's a one card win con. It, you know, if you have a Breach in hand, it finds you all the pieces you need for that. Like there's so many things that you just put something in your graveyard, and your deck is already kind of built to pull it out and use it. Um, and in addition to that, I guess that's a perfect segue into Reanimate. So obviously in Tomb Reanimate, this isn't some crazy tech that I came up with. This has been played for a long time. But the reason why I like Reanimate is because it's a one mana wild card essentially, right? If I play Grand Abolisher, you know, God forbid they have the Force of Will, they always do, right? I can go, cool. Here's a Reanimate targeting a Grand Abolisher. Let's try again. And they counter that too. Then it's like, oh, okay, well, how about I actually put my one on the stack? Let me actually cast my Ad Naus or my Peer into the Abyss or you know whatever it is that I'm trying to resolve, right? Like it's just another thing. It's another interaction check that must be answered. In addition to, it also can just pull things out of graveyards from other players, right? If somebody casts a Flesh Duplicate on like a Lotho early game and it dies, I can play a Ruthless Technomancer and then I can cast Reanimate on that Flesh Duplicate and win the game. Or I can, reanimate a Wandering Archaic, or somebody cracks a Ranger to save the game. I can reanimate a Ranger Captain, and then I can, find a combo piece like Citrus Supplier while I do it. Like the Reanimate is just a wild card. It's a very, very mana efficient card that's extremely, extremely powerful. Um, we'll segue into what makes Reanimate particularly powerful in my list, I guess, and we'll go look at Hoarding Broodlord. Hoarding Broodlord, again, this isn't crazy tech. Hoarding Broodlord, big dragon, tutors things. You can cast it with Convoke. Pretty cool. And this was kind of like an aha moment for me when I realized that some background here is that I realized that I really, really liked the Magda tech of finding Curse Mirror. And it kind of sucked whenever I took that out of the deck because I did like that Magda transitioned directly into a win. And when I finally realized that Magda can just find Hoarding Broodlord, it all kind of clicked together. So like Hoarding Broodlord is a convoked 8-drop. So it's automatically it's not easy to cast, but it is easier to cast than other things that we've played in the past. So it's like, it's easier than hard casting. This is like burn offering, sacrifice, aside or whatever. It's easier to hard cast a Hoarding Broodlord than it would be a Peer into the Abyss, or whenever we were trying Villas, or not Villas, Razakith, or I guess Villas if you're trying that too. But it's easier to cast than all of these other, big flashy reanimate targets. On top of that, it's a really, really good reanimate target itself. It's just a tutor. Tutors are good. And then on top of that, you can tutor it with Magda and essentially instantly win the game. Um, Now, one of the concessions, we'll call it, to playing Hoarding Broodlord is that you really need to, well, you don't need to, but I think it's correct to play Sawnhalf. And you can look at Sawnhalf, and on its face value, it probably looks kind of like a bad card. But let me pitch it to you this way. So Sawnhalf obviously combos with Hoarding Broodlord. Some addition that we get for playing this deck in particular is that Sawnhalf also combos with Ruthless Technomancer. Um, Also, Sawnhalf is just like it's a really, really good value piece because we're still kind of like a farmy treasury deck also. Whenever we're enacting our backup plan, our Timna plan, we still have like our OBM, we still have our PFBs, we still have these really, really good valuable creatures that we can clone and copy to just generate and amass value over the game and create resources and material to eventually convert that into a win. Even hitting something like a treasure dork, like you can hit a greedy freebooter. It kills a greedy freebooter. You make a treasure, you scry one, whatever, bad card, put it on the bottom. Now you have two greedy freebooters that you can sack to Dargo. So you're making, four Dargo mana with the greedy freebooters, and you're getting two treasures on top of that after, and you're scrying two after that. So there's all these like little niche things that you can do with this card that outside of just winning the game, like there's actually a lot of value if you really dig deep into it. We'll look at, I guess Jolly Balloon Man is kind of within this package as well. I mentioned it before. Entomb finds Jolly Balloon Man whenever you're going into a Ruthless line. Additionally, Jolly Balloon Man clones creatures, so it's kind of along the same line as Saw in Half. So like, it hasn't it's not unheard of to Jolly Balloon Man my Hoarding Broodlord, or to Jolly Balloon Man some of these other crazy valuable creatures like my PFB to get double triggers. Or like, Jolly Balloon Man, my OBM to remove a blocker or a stacks piece so that I can, get in with Timna and try to win the game. So it's kind of along the same line. It's also a combo piece, and I guess in that, in relation to Cursemere, again with the Hoarding Broodlord, I don't see a need for Cursemere anymore because I already have my target if I'm going the Magda route after a Ruthless Technomancer. Not saying that Cursemere is a bad card or anything. I'm just saying that like in my head I've covered that route to victory already, and I have a line there. I don't need additional lines. We'll go to some of the removal packages that I'm running here. So OBM is an amazing card. Uh, it's 2 mana, 2 bodies, probably kills something. Pressures life totals on the control decks, pressures life totals on the stacks decks. You're in the perfect scenario, it's 2 mana, 4 mana for Dargo to try and win the game. In your backup plan, it's 2 mana, 2 Timna attackers. Yes, it kind of sucks if he gets cloned or whatever, but we're a Timna deck second. If you're enacting the Timna plan and there's an Orcish Bowmaster, it does suck, but I believe that I play a good enough removal to play against that, or I can kind of talk my way out of it, or like I can just try to win the game instead of trying to draw more cards. I can just try to land a Grand Abolish, your Voice of Victory, Silence Effect, whatever it may be, and just transition to a winning state rather than my grinding state. Ajani is kind of similar in this sense because it's the same concept because it's 2 mana for 2 bodies. And initially I didn't like this card, but the more that I've tested with it, the more that I really just like the play pattern of, turn one a Johnny, 2 bodies, turn two. If I'm looking at a fast win, that's 4 Dargo mana automatically. If I'm looking at a Timna plan, that's 2 attackers on turn two. Sumer can play Timna turn two. And then it's also removal if I run into any kind of stacks or into like a problem. If it's not, I haven't seen it either, but if there's like a Dranith, like a Johnny's a really good removal piece, or it could just be a tempo piece to kill, a Thrasios or a Kinnan or one of these other creature or really powerful commanders that kind of just take over the game whenever they're played. It's a perfect, in my eyes, it's a perfect middle ground between the turbo plan, the game that we want to enact, and the backup plan of Timna, with it being 2 attackers and removal whenever we're searching and waiting for a window. Um, we'll transition to Claim the Firstborn. This is a card that was played before me, but I've been an advocate of it ever since I added it to the deck. Um, this card is just it's so flexible. It's proactive in a way that you can. It's less proactive now because I'm no longer on the welders. I think if you're on the goblins, it's a lot better because you can haste enable your goblins. but it's still proactive in a sense that I can, I can give something haste to crack a top deck tutor, or I can steal a blocker to draw more cards with Timna and then sacrifice it to Dargo. It's removal for stacks pieces. It's agency to say, hey, let me in, with this random dude with this Orcish Bowmaster, and if you don't, I'm gonna steal your Kinnan. And I'm gonna sack it to Dargo. I'm gonna blow your shit up. Like it's such a flexible piece and a proactive piece that I could never imagine cutting this card. And it just strictly wins games. Like I'll just target a ranger captain, and then if they crack it, cool, I'll win with a creature combo. And if they don't, okay, I have a ranger captain and I'll crack it and still win with my creature combo. Like there's just so many scenarios where I see this card and it's absolutely game breaking. And my favorite moment is when they go to read the card. So, Static Prison. This is my choice of a card that kind of hits all. Um, the only real reason why I play this over the other ones is because, well, one, it hits everything, and two, it's 1 mana. Like you can play Touch the Spirit Realm, but Touch the Spirit Realm doesn't hit enchantments. It's also 3 mana off of Adnos. Yes, it's instant speed. Yes, it's a channel ability. There's definitely downsides to playing this over the other ones, but this is just mana efficient, hits everything, it does everything I want it to do. I'm not particularly looking for this card in any game. I'm only going to use it if it comes up. I talked about my philosophy whenever I'm facing stacks quite a bit. I don't. I'm not the guy that's going to tutor for this piece to try and remove the stacks off the board to win the game. I'm just going to tutor up an E zone and wait for someone else to do it, because if no one else does it, then we're all losing the game anyway. Because like I'm not going to remove a stacks piece for someone else to go on top of me. It doesn't make any sense to me. And we can talk about that more later if we need to. We'll go into Squelcher. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but I think it's a necessary evil. The creature silence effects are one of the best, like some of the best cards in the deck, and I don't think that's a hot take. Squelcher doesn't do that, but it's really, really close, and I think that's good enough. I think it's better than D-Grid because it hits a lot more things. A lot of the time, at least in my experience, when I've casted D, and this could be definitely a meta thing, but when I cast D-Grid, I'm looking at 2 Cradle decks, and I'm like, cool, they can still interact with me anyway. At least with Squelcher, I know that 75% of their interactions dead. I just have to hope they don't have the other 25%. So to sum this one up, I think it's just good enough, and I think that there's not really another card that I would play in its place. Like I'm not gonna play Orm's Chant for the reasons that I stated before. It only hits one player, and I always play it defensively. Revel in Silence, I don't find to be as mana efficient as I want. The 2 white pips are kind of frustrating to me. And then at the end of the day, Squelcher is still a creature. It still attacks with Timna. I can still reanimate it. I can still sack it to Dargo. Like I can still use it outside of a silence effect if I really, really need it. Um, I consider. Oh yeah, I guess we'll go to this. Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth's a card that's. I guess it's on the downtick a little bit, but Yawgmoth's a combo piece. It's a pretty good reanimate target. It's a good Timna attacker. It's not that hard to play. Black mana. We make a lot of black mana with our rituals. Um, it's removal again if you're playing these cradle decks, and this could be definitely a meta specific thing. There's a lot of big mana in my meta, so like killing all these Kinnins and these Thrasioses and these Badgermole cubs and all this other little shit running around feeding these cradles, I think is really, really important. And Yawgmoth's a way to do that. That gives us agency in a game, and yeah, and it serves as a combo piece. It hits all of the roles that I needed to hit at a 4 mana slot, and I could see taking it out with something else, but it'd have to be something that draws cards, because this really takes an uh, MDE slot, but it also pulls double duty, so I'm able to. I don't know. It's another one of these flexible cards that do a lot of work in various scenarios. That's kind of why I like it. Warrior's Oath. I've always been a really big fan of the extra turn effects. Honestly, I would play 3 if I really could, but I can't. I just don't have the slots for it. But this is essentially I I use these pretty aggressively. A lot of people compare them to rituals because you're just essentially untapping your lands and trying to go again. I kind of compare it to like another interaction check. If I push on a turn and I get stopped by interaction, I'm gonna go again. And it's not just like I'm untapping my lands. No, I'm gonna attack with my creatures. I'm gonna get my Timna draws. I'm gonna get my, if I have it flipped, I'm gonna get my Ajani activation. Like I'm gonna be able to do all the powerful things that this deck is built to do because this deck does all of its powerful things on our own turn. Warriors Oath just another way to do that. Uh, it extremely powerful. And one of the first includes it whenever someone sends me the list. I always tell them to put at least one extra one in there. Knuckles, kind of goes along with the Warriors of thing. It's just it does what we want to do. It makes fodder for Dargo. It attacks with Timna. It pairs well with all of our other creatures to get in and make treasures, which feeds our Dargo plan. And the strongest comparison between these two cards, I would say, is Tithe. This is an argument that's brought up quite a bit, but whenever you're really looking at it, if you're playing a turn two Knuckles versus a turn two Tithe, a Knuckles is going to at floor provide you two treasures immediately. Tithe at floor is going to provide you three treasures for the turn rotation, so you're not getting them until turn three. But if you're getting three treasures at turn three, you can look at Knuckles in the same way and say, oh well, at floor on turn three, I'm getting four treasures because I got two the first turn, and then I got two on turn three, so I got four. I got more than I got with Tithe. In addition to, again, you get them immediately, so you're most likely you're going to be able to play a Dargo or something else. You're actually getting more because you've deployed more creatures on your turn two, so that your Knuckles triggers on turn three are going to be more than they were. So in reality, whenever you're playing a turn two Knuckles, you're actually looking at more like 5 to 6 treasures in comparison to the three that you're getting from Tithe. And there's obviously some, there's some different scenarios, and this is also subjective because I agree, like the longer the game goes, Tithe gets better because there's more draws to be had than there is combats for you to make. But again, this is a Dargo deck. We're not trying to go long. We're trying to end the game. Knuckles does this. It's a perfect middle ground between I want to attack with Timna, gain a little bit of advantage, and then have a really hard push on turn 3 to 4. And Knuckles serves that purpose perfectly. It also pairs into the various other synergies that I'm doing here. Like I can reanimating and Knuckles is very good. A lot of the time, if I'm looking at an early Entomb reanimate, I'm not even gonna go for Hoarding Broodlord because I don't have the mana to actually convert the line. I'll just Entomb reanimate a Knuckles and make a bunch of mana, play a Dargo, and then I can play a Timna, attack with my Dargo and Knuckles, draw 2 cards, make a bunch of treasures, and then this deck is full of win cons, so I'm likely to draw something that will do anything. If I've actually done it where I've Entomb reanimated Knuckles, swing, make treasures. Next turn, play Timna, swing, make treasures, and then draw a card. And then I've actually Warrior's Oath, untapped, swung with 2 things, drawed a bunch of cards, made a bunch of treasures, and converted it immediately. Like with I believe with my setup, you're able to like really lean into these just aggressive pushes, and you're able to convert them. In addition to all these cards are perfectly fine in a mid-range game plan. You can still grind with all of these cards and wait for a window if you need to. But you can go fast if you're looking at a quad turbo pot or something like that. I think the last card that we have not talked about is Volta Whispers. This is, I mean, this is also subjective. Volta Whispers, Great Furnace, Ancient Den. I think the main point that I want to say is that I really do think you should be on at least one of these cards. The reason why I've chose Volta Whispers over the other ones is because Necropotence and especially my list, I tend to lean a little bit Black Pip heavy. If you know, just looking at Kellen's right now, I could see that he's leaning a little bit more red. I can completely see why he would be playing Great Furnace over mine. So this just depends on, you know, what your pips look like, what kind of deck you're leaning towards. But I do think it is correct to play at least one artifact land in your deck because it at the end of the day, it's fodder for Dargo. It sacks to Beseech the Mirror. You can find it off Enlightened Tutor. Like there's so many of these niche scenarios that make this card way better than just like a fetch land or some other land that you'd have in the slot. Like I still see people playing Exotic Orchard, and I fucking hate that card. That card on whenever I'm in seat one does absolutely nothing for me in my 24 land deck. So yeah, I think that's it. Kellen, you can tell me if I missed anything. I think I got all the cards.
I believe you got all the cards. I'm going to go ahead and so I think because you also wanted to open this up to like specifically questions. So
Yep.
now the question is now, do you want to open up the questions for now or after I do my explanation? And they can just pepper us with questions. Up to you.
I think if anyone has any questions directed, I guess, towards me specifically, then we can do it now. And then whenever you go over your list, they can direct them to you specifically. And then
Sure,
at the end of everything, if they have like, if they want us to like to battle our, you know, whatever our opinions, then we can do that.
sure,
Um,
that's fine.
but I think that would be the best format.
Sure. So if you have questions for Joey at this point, specifically for him, he will answer questions. We can open that up for until people are ready.
Let me go to this questions tab here too.
Yeah, that's also that's why that's there.
Okay. Okay. We got all right. We got Brian here. Is it really worth running PFB plus Knuckles, or should it be one versus the other? Um, so I try to answer this, but then Daddy Kellen took it off, which is fine. But basically, I'm not running Knuckles because I mean I am running Knuckles because it's another PFB, but like it's not in the sense of like, oh yeah, PFB is so strong I want two of them. It's more of like I really want a 4 mana massive treasure generator, and I feel like Knuckles is a bit better than Tithe for the particular cases that happen in this deck. On an average, if you're looking at CDH as a whole, I do believe that Smothering Tithe is a better card. I'm not going to argue that whatsoever. What I am going to argue is that the play patterns that Dardu brings you into, Knuckles a lot of the time serves more purpose in those scenarios. So that's why I prefer Knuckles over Tithe. And them being together is just a plus. If you get a PFB plus in Knuckles, then you're super winning that game because you're getting hella treasures and seeing hella cards. Super, super good. And then you can find your Magda and all your other things. Um, so so Prater had a question to I think it's yeah it's for everyone. So I think we'll just say that to the end and we can kind of hash that out together.
Sure.
Um, Vivian said, "Has Static Prison been good? I know it's good to be about 1-2 pieces of hard interaction, like Touch the Spirit of a Static Prison. I'm just wondering how it feels with a Johnny." And there's a question for you too, and I'll leave that for you. Static Prison's been good for the reasons I mentioned. I think playing like if your meta is pretty stacks heavy, thankfully mine's not. Like I see it every now and then, but it's not like I don't have a bunch of tie-ins in my meta, for instance. But if you are seeing a lot of stacks, I do think it's important to to have the two hard interaction pieces. And then to kind of to touch on the little bit about a Johnny there. Again, I'm not playing. I mean, I am playing a Johnny because it's removal, but that's not the sole purpose of it. That's just more of a plus. A Johnny's there because it's two bodies for 2 mana. And then if I need to remove something, I have that out. But typically, what I'm doing with the Johnny is I'm just attacking with two creatures, drawing two cards, and then when I see a way to convert, I'm sacking them both for 4 mana. Um,
Is there anyone
this
in
one's
this room right now that also has a question? Question mark? That they would like
that
to
is a
just.
great question.
Uh,
The only quick question I had is with the amount of 2 power creatures you're running, surprised you're not running Dolny, or you find it's too. Do you find it's too slow for the deck?
Oh, that's a great question. So I love Delny as a card, and this is something that comes up all the time. But it is my belief that Delny is not fast enough for the deck. The reason why is because, again, this is all my opinion. It's not incorrect or correct or whatever to play Delny or not. But Delny at 3 mana doesn't do anything if you don't already have an established board state. And yes, like there's other cards that you can kind of say the same thing, but at the same time, like not really, because you can convert. Okay, so like it's going to be a really weird comparison, but like if you look at like Yawgmoth, right? Yawgmoth, yes, you need to have an established board state for Yawgmoth to do anything. However, you can play anything else immediately or the next turn, and you can automatically convert that into removal, into card draw, into resources. Versus Delny, you need to, one, you need to have like your other thing that's triggering. You know, have your Timna, your Lotho, like whatever it may be. And then, especially if it's Timna specifically, you need to have a creature that can attack. So there's like a lot of these checks that you have to make, and in my opinion, it's not worth it to play it at that 3 converted mana cost value, when I can play other things that have a faster, more proactive return on investment than Delny does. I hope that kind of answers your question.
does someone else have a question?
Um, I know you were talking about earlier when you were talking about like Warrior's Oath and those like that extra turn spell, and how you said you like to use it more aggressively. Has there ever been times where like that comes and like bites you in the ass when you're trying to like take that extra push? Just because I'm only asking because I'm a little hesitant to run that second extra turn spell, as I don't see myself casting it like even just Final Fortune itself most of the time because I'm too quote unquote scared to use it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is something you'll get a little bit better at as as you play more CEDH. I I play in a meta where there's a lot of interaction. So I think my plus to me as a player is really my window theory. I have a pretty good sense of when somebody has something and when they don't. Um, but I could definitely see if if your window theory isn't quite as developed, that it would be a little bit, a little bit daunting to kind of cast this spell that says, "So I'm going to try again. If I don't get there, I die." And it's something like what I would suggest is just kind of lean into it. Like in these practice games, just send it. Like see what your deck is capable of. See if you can get there or not, and then just try to assess. Like was there any tell signs that somebody had something or somebody was sandbagging something, or was there any like tell signs that I was missing X resources and really didn't have a great chance to convert this. So all of it's just reasoning and math. Like you just have to, once you get a sense for it, it's game changing. The cards are, because it's no surprise like when I say this deck does the most powerful things on its own turn, because that's the only time this deck does anything. This deck is extremely explosive, extremely powerful, but we can only do it on our turn. Us getting another ability to do that is just game breaking, and I truly believe it is one of the more busted things about the deck and why I like playing the deck is the explosiveness. So yeah, I would just lean into it and try it. And games that are a little, a little less, we'll call it, like not in tournament. I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else?
Hi, I put a question in the little question section, but I'll just say it out here. So basically, what would you say would be the hardest matchups for the deck? And then what does your sideboard kind of look like? Because I see it's very streamlined, but I want to be able to have a couple of pieces in the sideboard to see and like know which cards I would swap out.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, ooh, so I definitely the worst matchup is stacks, right? Because you're you're already kind of at the grace of, like if somebody plays a Dranith and then if they double stacks you, you're kind of cooked. Like, yeah, like especially my list, I play a good bit of interaction and a good bit of removal, but like if they double non-creature stacks you out, like you're playing against like a Rog Tavesh or something, then you don't have a good chance of winning that game. I'll be honest with you. So and that's kind of like what I was saying earlier. That's why I like to lean on other players because like it's not hard to convince other players that everyone at the table is losing the game whenever there's two stacks pieces out. You're like, hey, the stacks player is enacting their game plan. If we don't do something about this, we are going to die. And then they can look at you and be like, oh, well, like you're a turbo deck, like what you can't help. And then you're like, yeah, sure, but at the same time, I can't do anything about this either. I'm just trying to be a good, a good salesman and tell you guys what this issue is. Like, yes, I'm a turbo deck, I'm a scary deck, but currently I cannot do anything about any of this. So am I really that scary right now? And you just kind of have to like pitch it to them, be like, hey, like this stuff has to get dealt with, or we're going to lose this game. And then while they're doing that, I prefer to set up for when it does get removed rather than try to find the piece to remove it, because all removing a stacks piece, especially as a turbo deck, all it says is like, hey, I'm trying to win the game. Hey, I really need the stacks piece to go away so I can enact my game plan. And that's just a bad look. Someone's either going to counter it, or there's going to be some politics that's going to make it impossible for you to push. Like it never leads to a winning game state, at least in my scenarios or my experience. Um, so yeah, I think stacks is definitely the worst matchup. And then to combat that, I think you just need to have one. This is something I was talking to Bad Dog about, but I think a possible way to combat this, and I'm not necessarily doing it. This is all theory. Is you could play stuff like Praetor's Grasp and like Opposition Agent to try and steal other flash enablers. Now don't don't just like go and do this. Like this, there's a little bit more thought that needs to be dealt with this. But I think that is a possible route to fight to combating this issue. Another thing that we can do is just try to play like more instant speed, non-creature stacks interaction. So like yeah, like your touch the spirit realms and stuff like that. Again, if you see like a lot of time and stuff in your meta, a lot of rule of laws, or not, I guess not rule of laws specifically for touch the spirit realm, but if you see like a lot of like I don't know, like Trinus spears and stuff, like it might behoove you to play some of those cards. Um, Another little quick thing that we're kind of bad against, just because I just thought about it. But if you guys see a lot of decks that prey on like removing creatures, like a really prevalent deck that I play against quite a bit, because one of my locals is one of the main creators of the deck. But if you ever played against Uranus Street Urchin, that deck is an absolute killer. All that deck does is say, I'm going to kill all of your creatures, and I'm going to play stacks pieces, and I'm going to win eventually with some goblin line, or some people do the like Hulk packages and stuff like that. But like the problem is, if you're playing against any kind of deck that displays like a lot of removal, to say like, oh, you're casting Ruthless, bye bye Dargo, or oh, I see that you're trying to go for a line, I'll kill your Burgie here. Like anything that plays a lot of actual board interaction, you're gonna have a tough time against. The stack interaction, not so much. I think we actually have a pretty good matchup against the typical control deck. And I don't know if Kellen would agree or not, but that's my opinion.
I think I'll get into that more when after I'm done with my explanation on my cards, because I agree and disagree at the same time. Like
It
yes
looks like
and
you're
no.
teching against it a little bit more.
What, like stack interaction or on board interaction?
It looks like you're teching to like on board a little bit more. Like you're playing like the Sarkon and the Academy Rector and stuff like that. And then I guess to fight stacks, you got your Ominous Harvest and stuff.
Yeah.
I see the vision.
Yeah.
Does
Does anyone else have any
yeah,
questions for Joey?
Hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Going once.
Let me just check this. So I don't
If you
miss
want,
any
I
of
could
them.
be a little bit greedy, and I have one more question. So basically, it's about Warrior's Oath, and I've been seeing, I think it's the one that's like Boros and white, a chance for glory. But sometimes I also try to tech it in, not only because it's instant speed, but also because like you can pitch it to Chrome Mox to get the two colors. And I see that you were saying that at least with a white pip, it's really hard. So I was wondering if there's like, if you've thought about it, or at least if it's like, you've had the play pattern and it's been really hard to pull off.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll start by saying, like playing one of them is good. What if it's the Chance for Glory or the Warrior's Oath? It's kind of whatever. I just think being on an extra effect of this is correct. The real question that you have to ask yourself is the extra mana worth it at that rate for it to be instant speed? So like this is kind of how I see it, and I hope this makes sense. But I see it as Chance for Glory is leaning towards a necro plan and towards a trying to deal a turn and cycle, so that you can essentially force a window, or choose a window rather. And then Warrior's Oath is more of, okay, I've been stopped, I'm going to just immediately send again. And like, yes, Chance for Glory can be used in the same way. However, a lot of the time, at least in my experience, I haven't had the extra resources or the extra mana to be able to still push after I've Chance for Glory. Because a lot of the time, the play pattern is like, do this protection thing, okay, get stopped. Do this, other protection thing, or like this bait thing that's really really powerful, but they still need to deal with. Okay, get stopped. Okay, here's my actual win. Okay, get stopped. And then now I'm looking at, okay, I can pass turn, and I know that I'm going to die because this is turn 3, turn 4, and an extremely powerful format. I know that the next player is just going to win the game, because all of his interaction was used and they didn't do shit. So now, but I have this 2 mana and I can Warrior's Oath and immediately send and try again. Versus, oh, now I need 3 mana to immediately send again after playing all these other things. So I value the mana efficiency over the flexibility of Chance for Glory. And that's the deal breaker for me. That's why I prefer that one over the other. But I think it's completely fine to play Chance for Glory over Warrior's Oath. I just think you need to be playing one extra one in general.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Probably too, Joey. One thing that you probably want to add to is that you're more ad nos focused, And Warrior's Oath is much easier to cast off an Ad Nauseam pile than it is a Chance of Glory.
Correct. Yeah. If you go like, Spirit Guide, Ride of Flame, it's super easy. Or like, even going into like your Memnite, Infernal Plunge, play one more thing, Warrior's Oath, and then immediately convert your Adnos pile. Yeah, it's just like for my aggressive play patterns, that one mana can make or break a line. It means so much of a difference. I'd rather just push, push, push than, push a little bit, wait for a window in time, and then try again. Because like, and this is like, I truly think this is also a meta thing, but like you don't really get a lot of windows in my meta. Everyone here plays extremely responsibly, and you're going to see a piece of interaction or two, on turn 1 or 2. Like you're gonna have something. So that's why I've geared my game plan and my play style more towards I'm going to, try to push through interaction rather than play around interaction.
Okay.
I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone on this thing. All right, so it looks like Tien said, speaking of Yogg, how's Yawgmoth in the current list? Do you prefer him with Rakdos? Or sorry, do you prefer him or is Rakdos a better choice? So I think that Yawgmoth, so yeah, for all the reasons why I stated before, Yawgmoth is good. I do like him, and so I guess as a quick recap, in case you weren't here, Yawgmoth is a combo piece, it's removal, and it's a good reanimate target. It's also easy to cast. The reason why I don't like Rakdos is because, and again, like Rakdos is fine to play, I'm not saying it's wrong, but the reason I particularly don't like Rakdos is because it's a little harder to cast. He has a very, very busted ability, but in order to enact his ability, you have to have mana. And what I have found with Rakdos is that I've used mana to see more cards, but a lot of the time I'm not actually gaining mana back to continue going. Unless, I mean, yes, if I hit exactly Sacrifice or Burnt Offering, I feel like I immediately convert a Rakdos line. But I always feel like if I don't, then I fizzle, and then I just have a bunch of shit in exile that I can't use, and then that's it. Like I think there's more merit to playing it if you're playing like Warren Soul Trader and you're leaning a little bit more into these other different lines. But I think that's a completely different reconstruction of the deck, and that's not particularly a place that I'd like to take my list to. But I do think that there is a good version of it out there where Rakdos does shine.
Okay.
I think that's it. If I miss one, I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you, Joey, for your explanation on the cards and why you like, or why you're choosing these cards over others. I'll go ahead and go over my list. Or our lists are effectively the same, except for the 15 cards that were previously mentioned by him, and then the ones that I'm showing here up on the screen. Uh, the main difference between my mentality right now and what it used to be and what other players are playing right now, in my opinion, are I'm here to win protected turn 3. That's the goal. And every card I'm playing is pushing towards that goal as soon as possible. Now I know Sarkon's Unsealing, you're like, that doesn't really seem like a card that does that, except for the fact that it absolutely wins with Warren Soul Trader. But that's just a testing card right now. Sarkon's Unsealing and Academy Rector are both cards I'm just testing out for the time being. If I'm going to cut either of these, it's Sarkon's Unsealing, which I don't, you know, it. This is a card that says, fuck your Rogthras, fuck your Tyam, cast Argo. Cool. You guys just reset your whole boards and you have to rebuild for a whole turn. Kitten, gone. Every creature advantage they have, gone. every creature advantage engine that is being played right now is all under 4 power or 4 toughness. So this Sarkhan's Unsealing says, did I cast Sarkhan's and Dargo on this turn? Yeah. Okay, everyone else is reset and I'm not. And if I have ways to combo with it, great. If I don't, that's fine too. It's not really something that I'm like dead set on that like animate that people have to play this. I think there's a lot of cards in this deck that are flexible and more for playstyle, but I do think there are cards that are uncuttable. Like if you ask me right now, like I don't want to play Breach. Okay, you better give me a really good reason why you're not gonna play Breach. Like Breach is easily our fastest win con in this deck, as far as my testing goes. Breach is by far our best for early wins. So so right now the deck list is based on I'm trying to win turn 3 with a silence effect on the board and win right there. So multiple of the questions that I've been posted are, hey, if you're saying you're reading Turbo, why aren't you on 2 extra turn spells? That's what Sarkhan's Unsealing and Academy Rector were cut for recently, just to test and see how that feels. And the reason why I did not, the reason why I cut the extra turn spells, I was on 2, I was on 3 when I was testing this a lot. And a lot of times it was just, you're not seeing more than 10 to 12 cards a game, right? So that means you're seeing 7 on your mulligan. You're seeing 3 for turns. That's 10. And then Tim will draw you 1 or 2. So you're seeing an average on a good day, on a good game, 12 cards. And there were too many times where I said, okay, here's a Warriors Oath in my hand, and now here's the last chance in my hand. Cool. That's a dead card. Like I'm not here for that. 10% of my cards are now useless to me. Okay. So 2 felt better than 3. And then uh we got to a point when we were discussing, we're like, well, why aren't we just like, winning instead? Like, I know the game plan is throw a silence effect down, cast a Warrior's Oath, and then win on the next turn. But what if we could just win? Okay, so what's stopping us from just winning? What's stopping us from just going? And the two things that you need to win any Magic game are resources and card draw. And for us, like we also have to do a little bit more of the finagling because of how the way Dargo works. So a lot of the cards are meant to just, I'm going to get cards, I'm going to get mana, and I'm going to push on turn 3 behind a silence effect. Let's go through card for card. Sarkhan's Unsealing and Academy Rector. Sarkhan's Unsealing, as I just said, it's a win con with Warren Soul Trader. It's a board wipe for any stacks pieces that might be coming around. It's a it's a I didn't actually draw into my silence or a tutor and then a win con. Okay, Sarkhan's Unsealing, cast Dargo, reset the board, buy myself some time. Like that's gonna be rare, but it's gonna happen, and like I can't do much about that. So it's just a way to reset boards. Academy Rector says, what do I need? A breach, a necro, or an unsealing? And that generally will win me the game. I will say right now that the build I have going in all the moxes I've done, which is a lot, if I do Necro on turn 1 or 2, the next turn I am winning the game. Pretty much protected. Almost every time. Very few times is it not protected. And when I say protected, I mean there's a silence effect or a bauble out or something that says you cannot cast spells. And I'll get into that when I get into defense grid. But uh, Necro in this build has been absolutely bonkers. Like I knew it was good. It's a good card. We know it's a good card. I don't think there's any debate whether it's a good card. It's even better now. And I never rip Necro for more than seeing 14 cards in my hand. So if I have 3, I rip 11. If I have 1, I rip 13. And every single game that I've practiced with, the Necro will win the next turn, seeing 14 cards every single time without fail. So Academy Rector is just another way to say, here's my Necro, because 3 and a white is not that hard to do in this deck on turn 2. So that's why Academy Rector's there. All right, now we'll go through shot for shot. Flame Scroll Celebrant is a silence effect. I strongly disagree that 2 white pips is too much of an effect, that it's too much of an ask. You play Grand Abolisher, it's the same thing. So silence effect will always beat like the pyro, the reb, the redirect. The one time that like the one piece of interaction that stops one thing, silence effects will beat all of that. So silence the table. That's also why I'm not playing Orange Chant. So as Joey said, Orange Chant is really good in a meta where it's turbo, 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 because you can sit there on turn 1 and 2 and say, stop the turbo guy that went ahead of me. Now I get to go play. Okay. We're not in that meta anymore. We're just not. If you look at the numbers, if you look at the way things are going, we are not in a turbo meta. There is control. It's just guy control and Ristics. That's what we're playing against. So we have to be able to say no spells, no nothing. Tezzeret has been an absolute powerhouse in testing. Like, I am shocked how good it has been. Tezzeret off of a turn 1 Mana Vault Tezzeret tutor. Turn 1 Tezzeret untap Mana Vault, play Relic of Legends. Tezzeret also can tutor up all 3 aspects of our game that we're looking to do. Tezzeret can tutor up a Bauble, there's your silence effect. Tezzeret can tutor up Mana Vault, there's my mana. Tezzeret can tutor up an Esper Sentinel, there's my card draw. So anything that you are missing in your game plan, Tezzeret can go grab for you in this deck. That's too good. And for 3 colorless mana, that means any Dark Ritual, any Cabal Ritual, any Mana Vault, any like Soul Land, and like 0 drop for like a Lotus Petal or something. Tezzeret, turn 1. It's not hard to do, and it works, and it's so good every time. I will also say, Tezzeret being able to just give you 6 mana on the same turn that you play a Mana Vault. So let's say you go turn 1 or 2 Tezzeret. Go find Mana Vault. You don't like play Mana Vault. That's fine. Mana Vault, pass. Go to your next turn. Tap Mana Vault for 3. Untap Mana Vault. Tap Mana Vault for 3 more. 6 mana ramping for no cost to you is bonkers, right? We need shit like that. Okay, it's really really good. Cursed Mirror is over Jolly Blue Man for a couple reasons. One, I am not on the reanimate package. I am not on any of the entombing. I'm not on anything like that. If I was on entomb and if I was on reanimate, I'm on Jolly Blue Man. I don't think that's really a question, right? The reason why is because entomb with Ruthless Technomancer means you win. The reason why is reanimate Jolly Blue Man makes sense. Curse Mirror it's a replacement for Jolly Blue Man, and it's 1 less mana to perform the combo. That's relevant, right? Because if we're trying to win by turn 3 and we're trying to do it protected, that 1 mana could be the difference between I could push now or I can't push at all. You have enough ways to convert Curse Mirror and infinite mana into things, right? Which I'll go into. It's also more castable off of Justice Will, and you can't SWAT Cursed Mirror. You 100% can SWAT a Jolly Blue Man. So it feels real bad to sit there and go, Jolly Blue Man, copy Ruthless Technomancer. Cool. Redirect Lightning to your Dargo? You done? Cool. Guess I have to pass turn. That's not something I want to be a part of, because SWAT effects, misdirect, stuff like that, they're at a premium right now. Everyone is running them. Everyone is going to be doing it. So again, unless you're behind a silence, that's another thing you have to worry about, and I'm just not here for that. Also, Cursed Mirror coming in is very flexible, and let's say I do a turn 2 Cursed Mirror with no Ruthless out. You're like, okay, what do I do then? Let's say I get a random like Spell Seeker, or I get a like random card that's on the field, the best creature on the battlefield for a turn. And now the next turn, I actually have an extra red mana to work with it. So that was actually a huge part of the Cursed Mirror swap. Was Cursed Mirror is actually if I can't win with it, it's not a dead card. Jolly Balloon Man to me, if you're not winning with it, kind of a dead card. Okay? I'm not paying 1 mana to copy a Treasure Dork to get 1 extra treasure for that turn. That's not really something I'm really into. So I'm not going to do that. I've already explained Sarkhan's Unsealing. I don't think it's a staple. I do think it's a really fun card. I think it's a really fun idea. I can do it off of Academy Rector. I think our biggest matchup, as was said, is stacks. I will tell you, in my meta, I play Tyam every day, and he's a good Tyam player. I play against the top guy in Atlanta. I play against the top guy in Nashville, and both of them have converted many times. And as someone who plays against Tyam on the regular, this will absolutely blow him out of the water. And one of the ways you beat Tyam is you don't let it snowball. If you let it snowball and people aren't running enough onboard like removal, if you let it snowball, you will lose the game. Like you cannot let it snowball. But I also play against other decks like Joyra, the Aegis Adept. I play against the top person in the country on that. There's 2 of them that play that. A lot. I play against Sisay a lot. I play against Rockthrast a lot. All these decks say, if I snowball, you lose. Sarkhan says, you're not doing that. So that's why I'm trying it out. I agree about the artifact land. I think that this is more of a preference thing. I put Great Furnace in because the Great Furnace specifically works with Goblin Welder into Goblin Engineer. So you can go Great Furnace, Goblin Welder, turn 2, play Engineer, sack the Great Furnace into your Bolas Citadel. That's why Furnace is in. It has nothing to do with Dargo. I'll be very clear about this. I think that the artifact land, Great Furnace is 3 mana towards Dargo. Cool. That's great. I would rather run, if I have the choice between Great Furnace and Ancient Den, I'm probably going to run Ancient Den most of the times if I'm not going to be going for this turbo build. Ancient Den is because the rituals can give you black mana, the rituals give you red mana. You need white pips for silences. That's the most important thing you can do for interaction. And that's something we need. So if I'm not on Great Furnace, I'm probably on Ancient Den. Warrant Soul Trader has been an absolute powerhouse. I cannot emphasize enough how good this card has been. The deck is not even built around it. It's not. There's no part of me that said I'm putting Warrant Soul Trader and then putting cards in the deck because of Warrant Soul Trader. That never crossed my mind. But I will tell you, it's been absolutely cracked. It will open up windows for you that previously were not there because it creates mana and sack fodder for Dargo. There are many times where I've gone Voice of Victory turn 1 or 2. The next turn, swing with Voice of Victory, 2 creatures, sack the 2 tokens. Now I have 2 treasures, sack the 2 treasures, play Dargo, play Burnt Offering, win the game. That's a very common play pattern. That's not out of this realm. It's not a crazy thing to say either. Voice of Victory has become a much better silence creature effect than Grand Abolisher, in my opinion, for that reason, because it gives you that sacrifice fodder. Warrant Soul Trader has been really good when it comes down to okay, I've swung with Timna, I have Devotee out, I have Greedy Freebooter out, I have Shamligast out, whatever. Okay, I draw my 2 cards. Gosh, I wish I could just have 2 or 3 more mana and I could push right now. Warrant Soul Trader does that. Now, Warrant Soul Trader also says if I have Burgi or if I have Relic of Vengeance out, I effectively have as much mana as my life -1. Because you go Dargo, tap Dargo or Burgi trigger, sack the Dargo, get a treasure. Warrant Soul Trader gets you as much mana as you need. Oh, I was just goldfishing a hand earlier. That was, okay, I can put out Burgi. I had a Warrant Soul Trader out, cast Dargo, sack Dargo 3 times, play Diabolic Intent, and sacking my Dargo again, go get my Goblin Bombardment, win the game. It's just that simple. Warrant Soul Trader has, so any of our Relic effects / Burgi effects, it combos off with that. It also combos off with Stitcher Supplier. I had a game 2 weeks ago where I went Silence Effect, countered, Silence Effect, countered, Bobble, And they go, okay. I said, all right, Stitcher Supplier, sack Stitcher Supplier, play not Burgie, play Underworld Breach, cast my Stitchers from the graveyard, sack my Stitcher Supplier to Warren Soul Trader, do this until I find Culling the Week, win the game. So Warren Soul Trader is better for our breach lines. It's better for like opening windows where you previously didn't have mana. Warren Soul Trader does that. Goblin Welder is a pet card of mine. I've always liked Goblin Welder, but namely because I'm on Citadel. The Goblin package with Engineer and Welder is, if I'm on Citadel, I'm on Welder, because doing a turn 2 or 3, do you have a creature counter for Engineer? No. Great. I put Citadel on the field uncounterably. Or I cast Citadel, I hard cast Citadel, counter it. Cool. Put it on the battlefield anyways. Is a very common play pattern. Welder is also extremely useful when it comes to like, oh, I need my Basalt Monolith. Untap my Basalt Monolith. Cool. It's actually a Mox Diamond now. Or it's a Lotus Petal now. Great. Stops getting pretty well. Gets rid of Agatha Soul Cauldron if people have stuff in their graveyard. It gets rid of. I play against a lot of artifact decks as well. And that to me is like a nice little boon where it's like, look, you have an artifact in the graveyard, you have Agatha's, or you have something like that. I'm just gonna swap them. Stop your lines there. We're good. So Welder to me is versatile. It's a 1-drop. I like it a lot. A lot of people think of like why. It's because Citadel's there, and it's versatile enough for me to justify. More 1-drops we have, the quicker I can get things going. Academy Rector essentially just says Necro or Breach on it, with extra steps, but it's uncounterable because it's a creature. Oh, it's also a Goblin Bombardment. I've also, like, multiple times have gone Relic, cast Academy Rector, sack Academy Rector to Dargo, put Goblin Bombardment on the field, win the game. Very easy to do. Academy Rector's, I think, a really good card. I'm also testing things right now with Sneak Attack, and I don't think there really needs to be elaboration on why Sneak Attack can be really good in this deck. It just is, especially if you lean into it. Jessica's Will fixes 2 things. It's either cards or it's mana, or it's both if you have a Timna out on turn 2. Uh, it's a very common play pattern to go Jessica's Will after I land a voice, see the top 3 cards, look and get at least 5 mana. The average right now is about 4 to 5 mana, which is about what a Sticker Goblin will give you. Um, but the ceiling on it is way higher. Um, like the other day, Jessica's Will got 13 mana, and I just used it to pay for Rhystic Studies. That's totally valid. Goblin Engineer, I think, is a staple. I don't know. I think this is a card that is. If you're not on this card, you better give me a damn good reason why. It gets you your Relic. It gets you your Walter. It gets you your any of your artifacts that you need at any given time that could do abundance of things. It can even get you a prize statue and get value off of a prize statue. I think that Goblin Engineer is plenty good, and it's, to me, it's one of those cards where I'm like, if you're not running this card, I think you're just like, it's a skill issue. Um, it's been in there since day one, and I don't think it's gonna leave. Defense Grid to me is why I'm not playing Hexing Squelcher, because Squelcher is not a silence. I'm not giving you options. If the problem is, I would like to proceed to do my combo. Cool. I have a Rhystic Study out. I'm just going to wait until I hit a bounce spell, which they damn well will have because they're Jeskai or their control decks. They're going to have it. And they're going to go, cool, bounce your Hexing Sculpture, and then, or just silence you? Like, that they can cast silence over your Hexing Sculpture, then you're dead. It's the one card we can't fight, right? Like, it's the only card in the entire, like, really, the only way that I feel in a pod where I'm like, I cannot win this game is if people are just sitting there sandbagging their silences and showing me they're just sandbagging silences. Like, there's not much I can do about that. This deck cannot fight that in any way, shape, or form, um, except for with E Zone. But then you have to tutor for the E Zone, and now you're just like, it's just a very, it's not something I want to fight a lot. Ominous Harvest has been another card that, in theory, when it first got printed, I said, it looks like a win more card to me. I don't really like it. I said, I was talking with Roberto about this. And he's like, but what's cool about it is it's gonna draw you 5 to 6 cards, and unless they have a Flusterstorm or a Mindbreak Trap, you're drawing those 6 cards. Like, that's happening. And I thought to myself, I said, huh, that's actually not a terrible way to look at that, especially because a very common play pattern that this deck does is go like turn 2 or 3, sack a bunch of creatures to cast or sack a bunch of things to cast Dargo, sack the treasures, float a bunch of mana, cast Ominous Harvest. Now draw 9 cards. I haven't cast Ominous Harvest for a push for less than 9, and floating mana. This is my replacement for Wheel of Fortune. I am a notorious Wheel of Fortune hater. I think that giving your opponent's cards is just netting you negative. I will die on that hill that Wheel of Fortune is a bad card, and I've been saying this now for years. So I'm not going to play a card that's going to be giving other people cards, but this card will definitely say, unless you have exactly those 2 pieces of interaction, I am drawing 5 to 6 cards minimally, and if I am, like, that's the thing. Warren Soul Trader also really likes Ominous Harvest. Oh, Ominous Harvest also can kill opponents. You can just go, I'm a Grand Abolisher, I've casted Silence, I've casted every which way to stop you because I have my Technomancer loop. I have a Technomancer loop that is Ominous Harvest for 1 billion now. Ominous Harvest, Gravestorm trigger, target my opponents, draw your decks. You can't cast anything, you can't react to me. Game over. So it's something that you can loop and win with as well. Now, I'm not going to say that that's your go-to, and I'm not saying that's why I'm running the card. It's not, but it is an option, so I am. Reign of Filth has been. I didn't want to run it at first. I didn't want to uh, believe that it was going to be good because I've won so many games with only 1 or 2 lands out. But it's really freaking good. And especially if I'm going to be leaning into the breach lines, Reign of Filth is absolutely been pulling its weight. There's been multiple games where it's just like, kind of like Warren Soul Trader, where I said, look, if I just had 3 more mana, I could do this. And I look at my lands, and I have 3 lands out, and I'm like, yeah, that'll do it. Play Reign of Filth and go. I think it's been really good. It's much more all in on the win faster train. Dragon Rage Channeler is a way for you to see more cards. It's a Citadel thing. It's a Breach thing. It's not my. It is not a staple in my opinion. It is not something that is like, if you're not running Dragon's Rage Channeler, I don't know what you're doing. Uh, it's very much a preference card. It could very easily be cut. I actually think that there's another card I might try instead of it called Clockwork. I forgot what it's called. Uh, but it's a 1 mana hasty artifact that does stuff. But
Clockwork
uh,
Percussionist.
yeah, Clockwork Percussionist. I think that might have a slot in the deck, and if I did, it would probably be for DRC, or it would be for Sarkons, just for another dude. But uh, DRC is, in my opinion, a great way to just be like, I'm just doing ritual after ritual, and I don't want to see these cards. I don't want to see these cards, or I'm filling my breach yard, or I'm getting stuff off the top with my Citadel. It just does a lot of what we want to do. It helps me push with Citadel lines, because we've done the math on it, and if your Citadel is not converting at least 88% of the time in big tournaments, then you're leaving wins on the table and you're going to brick. So we're trying to support Citadel as much as we can, because as much as I know the stories, I know the hardships of Citadel. Trust me, I've been there, I have felt it, I have done it, I've experienced it. I empathize, I relate, I understand. And so there's a lot of people who say, well, I don't want to run Citadel because I had a bad experience with Citadel. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And I agree with you. However, the more I look at my data, the more I sit there and go, the only card that in the history of me playing this deck, the only card that I have said is an MVP more than Citadel is Dockside. And we're not getting that back. So if the best card that this deck has ever run MVP wise has been Dockside, and the number 2 is Citadel, I think I'm gonna play Citadel for now. It cheats out. It cheats mana. It cheats and it cheats card draw. It does two things that we really want to do, and it's very easy to pull off with Welder and with Engineer. And it's also the hardest one to counter of the big payoffs that we have. Um, I just think Citadel is worth running. If you're not on Citadel, then I think you should be on the Reanimate package, and that is kind of like I think it's one or the other. It's not both, generally speaking. But if you want to run both, by all means. When the first time I converted on this deck, um, I had Citadel, Hoarding Broodlord, PETA, Adnaz, and Necro. So it can be done. It's not crazy to do that. I just probably wouldn't at this point. It's just not the way I want to play. But the deck is geared towards I'm going to win on turn 3 with a silence effect on the board. That's the game plan. That's the goal. So if it's not pushing me towards that, then it's not something I'm going to be wanting to do. So like for instance, some of the things that like Son Half and Hoarding Broodlord are like I agree with Joey when he said you don't have to, but like you do. Like it's like one of those things like if you've ever been an athlete when the coach says it's an optional practice. He said it's optional, but like it's not. Like you're doing it. Like if you're playing Hoarding Broodlord, you're running Saw in half. That's just the way it is. Um, Claim doesn't push me. A Johnny doesn't push me. Orcish doesn't push me. Redirect Lightning doesn't put. And the thing about Redirect Lightning, it is an absolutely dead hit of off of a Citadel. It's not like I played two. I've already played a land for turn brick. It's like if I played 0 lands for turn and I see Redirect Lightning on top of my library with Citadel, I'm done. It's over. That's the turn. And so that is the only reason why I'm not running it. If I'm not on Citadel, I'm on Redirect Lightning. Like I want to be clear about that. If I'm not on Citadel, I'm probably running Redirect Lightning. Um, Static Prison. This is the thing. Sarkon's Unsealing just replaces 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of removal to me because no one's copying my Sarkon's Unsealing, right? People are copying your Orcish Bowmasters. 100% of the time, they're going to copy it. It then becomes who has the last Orcish Bowmaster on the field. That's all the game becomes that mini game. And since Imposter Mech is an absolute staple right now for most decks that are blue, what do you think they're going to get? Orcish Bowmaster. And who's the one who's going to get punished for it? You, because you're a turbo deck, and you don't have enough ways to stop that. So you're the one who's going to get punished to do that. I like Orcish. I like a Johnny. As I said before, I think that these are like that's a card I would like to ask about, and I am considering because 2 bodies for 2 mana is really, really good. I just know that a Johnny also is not going to get copied. So a turn 1 on Johnny, turn 2 Timna is an awesome, awesome play. It's also conditional whether or not you get to flip it and actually use it for removal. So that's why I've said no to this point. I've said no on it because it's conditional removal, not actual removal. Static Prison just feels really bad drawing into it when you don't need it. And again, you're only seeing 12 cards a game on a good day, unless you're like actually starting to push already. So to me, Static Prison is I would run this as well if I'm not on Sarkon's. I'm probably on Static Prison or Felia, because Felia can do other things and can open and close windows for you. But Static Prison is absolutely a card. I'm like, I I have a very specific reason I'm not running Static Prison. I do think it's a card that you should be running. Like let's be very clear about this. I do think Static Prison is one of the best removal spells we could be running in this game right now for this deck. I think that if you're not on it, you have to have very specific reasons why not. That's my specific reason, is that it doesn't push me towards the turn 3 win, where Felia can push me towards a turn 3 win. So that's why I'm not on that. You'll also notice I'm not on any other 4-drops like Yawgmoth and Knuckles. Again, Sarkon's Unsealing is just a testing card. So before that was in there, it was Warrior's Oath, I believe. Uh, they're, it's too hard to cast these turn 2 or 3. or not turn 3. It's too hard to cast these turn 2. Just plain and simple. They're too hard to cast turn 2. I think that Yawgmoth is a card I introduced to the deck, and I love it. I think it's a great card. I think it's an amazing card for the deck. I think it's something that, again, unless you're very specifically not doing something, or you very specifically have a reason not to run it, that's the only reason why you're not running it. Yawgmoth should probably be in the deck, especially if you're a beginner on this deck, or if you're a person that needs more agency and pivot points, or if you're on Pyro of Heroes, you're on Yawgmoth. That's my opinion. I think that again, a lot of what we're saying is not objective; it's subjective. But I think Yawgmoth is too good of a card. It does too many things for the deck for me to say like you shouldn't run it. I have a very specific reason I'm not running it. That's why I'm not running it. So if honestly, if you told me right now, could I replace Yawgmoth and Sarkons? 100%. That's a very viable thing to say, and a very viable thing to do in this deck. I would not mind doing that. I just think that Yawgmoth being a card draw thing, Ominous Harvest is just doing it better. Yawgmoth will not draw you as many cards as Ominous Harvest unless you're already comboing, which means you've already invested 3 more mana because you have Burgi and Relic of Legends. So there's 3 extra mana there. You had to have Sack Fodder, so that's also mana investment. And then you have Dargo, which is also mana investment. And if you don't have a silence effect on the board, that's another investment you're going to have to do because you're just drawing people cards because you're storming. So Sarkons is 2 spells, wipe the board. Yawgmoth is 20 spells, wipe the board if you have 2 Rock Dresses out. Or it's like X amount of spells. When they're drawing cards over and over again, that's not something I want to be giving them. So, but I do think, once again, to reiterate, Yawgmoth is a really good card. It should be in the deck unless you have very specific reasons not to. Knuckles is just PFB, but harder to cast. I think PFB is a better card for this deck. We're both on it, so we both think it's good enough. And the big debate we've been having today in the Discord has been how viable is Knuckles tasking turn 2? Because all the stuff we talked about as Knuckles turn 2 is awesome. How often is that actually happening in games? Statistically speaking. What's the likelihood of you casting a Knuckles turn 2? You have to have you have to have 2 red pips plus a soul ring or something of that nature to do that. It's not even a soul land and a land. It's a soul land, a arcane signet, and a land for turn 2. Or it's exactly Entomb Reanimate. And I'll be honest with you, in my meta, if I cast Entomb Reanimate, even for Knuckles, that's getting misstepped 100% of the time. It's happened too many times. Knuckles to me is a good card. I think if I was going to run a treasure producing 4-drop or another 4-drop in this deck, Knuckles would be my choice because it does fit the play pattern of silence the next turn, Knuckles, 2 treasures, extra turn, Knuckles, 2 more treasures the next turn too. Smothering Tithe cannot do that. So to me, if you're trying to go for a turbo build or a build that is reliant on you're seeing a turn 3 or 4 as consistently as possible, Knuckles is the better 4-drop for that strategy. However, Tithe is a better card period. And to answer the question about what about PFB, PFB can win multiple ways with 2 different combos that we have in the deck. Knuckles and Tithe don't. Outright do not win. So if I'm going to only run one of them, because that was the question that was posed today, was if you could only run one, you get Smothering Tithe, Professional Facebreaker, or Knuckles, it's Professional Facebreaker to me because I can win with it. I can crack off the top. I can crack top deck tutors. It's card advantage and mana advantage on one card. So to me, Professional Facebreaker would be the call in that slot. I think I went over each of these. Okay, it took about 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay. Same like we did with Joey. If you have questions for me, I have questions on the thread I can go through, but are there any questions for me from people in this room right now that I can answer?
Quick clarification. Flusterstorm does not stop Ominous Harvest.
It does.
How?
Omnis Harvest goes on the stack. Cool. Gravestorm trigger. Put out my Omnis Harvest. Cool. Flusterstorm.
Okay.
If
So
they have the
hold on,
if they have the storm.
hold on. Yeah, well, that's my point. If you say you cast 3 spells and you crack 9 treasures, that's 11 Gravestorm. Flusterstorm
Yeah,
ain't stopping
Flusterstorm
that,
is.
brother.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Because you are really only casting like 3
It's
spells. with the
literally
Omnis Harvest.
only in BT.
Even better.
So just quick point of reference. Great Storm count is not Gravestorm. 2 different storms.
Yeah, you are so correct because Gravestorm only really requires you to cast honestly 2
3
spells.
things. 3 things.
Yeah. So, yeah, NBT or not, NBT or nothing. Does anyone have any questions for me about the card selections I have, or what I'm testing, or what my deck is doing at this time before I get into the thread? No? Okay. Some of the questions from the thread. Is it really worth running PFB and Knuckles? I don't think so. But Joey, I think you would agree that the grinding for Knuckles and PFB is pretty fucking insane, right?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like Knuckles hitting for 4 treasures by itself because of PFB is an absolutely bonkers thing to do. I've done it multiple times. It never won me the game, but it's insane. How does no board interaction feel? Only real thing that can kill threats on the board is Sarkhan's and Sealing and Goblin Bombardment, but other than that, no BM, no touch, etc. It ain't my job to remove shit. If they throw out a Dranith, we're already going to be in a copy spot. Like, we're going to be a grind anyways. I'll get my removal to get there. I have not wanted to have removal on the board because I don't want the draws I'm having to essentially not push me towards a win. Again, even Sarkhan's Unsealing can actually get me to a win. No other removal that I'm seeing actually does that, except for, like, well, yeah, I have Orcish Bowmaster and a Johnny, I can sack them to Dargo. Right, but a Johnny's not removal at that point, and Orcish Bowmaster is contingent on people drawing cards. So I'm not going to run removal that's contingent on my opponent to do things. And I know a lot of, like, I say that a lot, and then people will also go, but you also love Seize the Spotlight? Right. But that's progressing me either way. So either A, I take your best creature and sack it to Dargo. That's what I wanted to do in the first place. Or you're giving me a treasure and a card draw, which is what I want to do anyways, period. So that's why Seize the Spotlight to me has been a card that I've really liked and played for a long time. Is that, well, you gave your opponent's agency. Yeah, I did give them a choice. I did give them something to do, but it's a lose-lose situation for them. OBM's not. Johnny's not. So that's why I don't run. And honestly, I haven't missed OBM at all. I'll be honest with you. I just haven't. How are we doing with 3 mid-range decks at a table? Seeing a lot of Rock Thrust, Blue Farm, and other Ristic piles. You silence them. That's how you can deal with them. You tell them they can't cast spells. That's the only way that's going to work. You jam silences down their throat and see what you can do. Because at some level, what will happen is if they stop your silence effects, then they probably use their interaction for that, and they can't stop your creature spells. So then you just win with creatures, which is fine. But you are just putting silences on the board as much as you humanly possibly can. That's how I've dealt with it. Seems to have worked for me. So recently leads toward turbo, presenting projected wins as soon as possible. Why now? Why go down the extra turn spells? Right now it's an experiment for instead of saying push extra turn, because frankly, if I'm pushing and I don't have a silence effect on the board and I cast an extra turn spell, they're gonna stop that too. So instead of just saying I'm gonna like cast a. It eliminates one of the steps I have to take. So if the steps are land a silence, find a extra turn spell, cast the extra turn spell under a silence, then go to the next turn and win. How about I just cast a silence and then have enough resources to push and win? That's the logic behind that, and it's been working out pretty well. I will say I mulled a four times this weekend out of the 9 games I played. So almost half, 3 of them in the actual envy, and I still won protected turn 3 twice. So deck does things. Like it will do it. You just have to run cards that progress you towards that board state. Um Sarkhan's Unsealing without Academy Rector. I think Sarkhan's Unsealing is fine without Academy Rector. It's just again, I don't run cards because I'm running other cards. Right now, that at least that's how my mentality, except for Goblin Welder to Citadel. I didn't run Academy Rector because of Sarkon's Unsealing. I had Academy Rector because it's a copy of either Breach, Necro, or Sarkon's Unsealing. It's anything I need it to be. That's fine. Um, I think that Tezzeret is again an absolutely powerful card that needs to be tested. And if you're not testing it right now, I highly recommend you do it because it's a really powerful play pattern. Is it worth to run a board wipe and leave if it can leave value behind, aka bodies for Dargo? This is only gonna. I'm only running a board wipe because it also wins me the game in the right circumstances. That is the only reason I play a board wipe. Joey, I don't know how you feel about running a board wipe in your deck, but the only reason I'm going to run Sarkhan's Unsealing if I ever do in a tournament is because it can also win me the game. You're not running any other board wipes, are you?
No, I would agree. I think the thing that you can equate to on my list, I guess, would be like a Yawgmoth in a way. But I'm not playing Yawgmoth because it's removal. I'm playing Yawgmoth because he does all these other things in addition to. So yeah, I would agree. I would not run a board wipe in the sole case of just trying to board wipe. I would only do that if that's just like a side effect. Like Sarkhan's Unsealing does win the game. Yawgmoth does have this flexibility and then can win the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's just like this is also a win con now. I'm not running Toxic Deluge. I'm not running uh what is that? What is that
Fire
one card?
Covenant.
Yeah. Oh my god, he already knew. Fire Covenant. Uh yeah, like I love Fire
Yeah,
Covenant. Don't get me
dude.
wrong.
Yahenni's expertise goes hard, but no, not to
Hey
play it.
yo, hey yo, hey yo. Cast
You
for
gotta you gotta play a 3 drop for free.
what's the conveyor man cost in Yahenni's expertise?
4. Black 2.
Is it -2 or -3?
3, I believe, off the top of my head.
Fuck.
It's a good card. I don't know. I do not think it's correct for this deck, but it is a good card.
I don't either, but that's kind of hot. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of.
it's Italian staple, man. Because you can go like here,
Oh
blow up your
shit.
board. I keep my Italian. I'll play my Ristic Study for free.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Hi, that was my question. I just wanted to complement that. I was asking not about all board wipes. I think we all agree here that we don't want to run board wipes because it's not our job to wipe the board. But it is our job to push and to following the logic of Sarkhan's Unsealing is that we are going to win the game and we are going also to get our opponents turned down, right?
Mhm.
So same logic would apply if I can get my opponents a turn down and I can get my board state a turn up because I need bodies for Dargo, for example. I was
Mhm.
thinking about something that I tried to start the conversation, but no one actually cared for, and it's something that we are trying in my playgroup here, and it's shell shock. It leaves 3 artifacts for 2 mana. Essentially, you wipe out all the dorks with it, and the play pattern is very cool, but I'm not testing it in a tournament scenario. So it was something that I was thinking like, okay, I need bodies for Dargo. I don't have the dorks here, but I have this card that it's going to make 2 manas into 3 bodies for Dargo that will essentially ensure that Dargo is going to enter for 1 only, but it's also going to wipe the dorks. It's not gonna wipe the board, but it can also be modular for those longer games when we are farming or grinding the mid game, and we need like that instant speed answer. um, it's flexible. I don't think it's very good for the turbo plan that you are currently going for, but still, like following the logic of Sarkhan's Ceiling that you are taking your opponents a turn down. Okay, so that would apply also if we take them a turn down and we go a turn up. That was my question really. I mean, with the
So
card in. Mm?
so I'm looking at the card, and here's why I think it's good. Like the good parts about it and the bad parts about it. The good parts are it does give you artifacts to sack to Dargo. It doesn't touch any of your board. It can deal as much damage as you need it to based on the mana that you have. It's an instant, so it's you can react with it. I think that the idea of Shell Shock is a really good idea. I think the idea of having this removal spell that is versatile is also really cool. I like the idea. I think it's worth testing. I think that you should test it with your playgroup. The concerns I have with the card are it's up to one target creature that player controls. So you get one creature, right? That's at most 3 artifacts. That's at most 3 creatures. Rogthras is not going to give a shit about this because they're going to go kill your Thrasios. Okay, recast my Thrasios because I have a Gaia's Cradle. And that's one of the bigger problems that we're going to have. Sisay is just going to activate over the top of you. Tyam says this is your one spell for the turn. And now recast Tyam and then pass. So the the biggest concern to me is it doesn't do enough of a board wipe. If this was deal X damage to up to X creatures, I think it would be a staple. Like up to X amount is insane. The fact that it's only one creature per board is a concern to me. Joey, what do you feel about it?
Yeah, let me actually help sell this. This card's actually really intriguing to me. Um, I I would not equate this to a board wipe per se, but it definitely is a really really cool tempo card because going like, we'll call X at 2, you're gonna get a really really good amount of value. Um, you can go, like on end step, X is to deal with some form of stacks piece, and then you can like tempo out 2 other players, right? And like this does 2 things. If no one has anything, you're tempoing out them, which is good because you're giving yourself time. You're slowing other decks down, but also this is going to draw interaction because people are going to tell you like, oh hey, I have this thing, like don't target my shit. And then you can start your political discussion of like, oh, like I need to hit this thing. What if what if I hit this other thing on your board? And then you start getting information, which is really really good. And this actually caveats into my whole philosophy on the deck and why, like, I tend to, whenever you look at the comparison between mine and Kellen's list, I run a lot more interaction, but like all of my interaction is modal. All my interaction can push me towards a win, do other things in different scenarios, but they can also, point at a creature and say, hey, I'm going to kill your shit unless you, tell me a reason not to, unless you give me information, unless you can convince me to point this somewhere else. Like it lets me talk with my opponents in a way where it's like, yeah, I'm a turbo deck, but like you're gonna give me info or your shit's gonna die, or you're gonna waste your piece, and then I'm actually gonna put my win on the stack. Like so, that's the reason I actually do like this card. I will say that the one thing that I'm gonna I'm gonna kind of hit on it with is that I'm not a fan of holding up that kind of mana because again we do the most powerful things on our turn. I like to play my spells and then advance my board state. It's the same reason why I'm not playing like an opposition agent or like a dual caster mage or something because it's like at the end of the day it's gonna be a 3 mana piece of interaction. And while yeah, like it's modal and you can get all of this information off of it, you're still asking yourself to postpone different development to hold up this interaction in hopes that you're gonna find a good scenario to use it. But
Yeah.
that's my initial thoughts on the card, and I do think that I would agree in that you should be testing it. I think it is very intriguing.
I was testing it, and it definitely felt very good if you are going fourth or third, and it felt, of course, worse if you were going first or second. But the thing that it didn't like felt at all bad was that it kind of was like a tempo piece that eventually, in some scenarios, not all, of course, could even be at the level of Price Statue, be it an instant speed. And in the current meta, you have actually one key dork for almost each one of the decks that you're going to be facing. Since I will have the the green eye, the green dork. I don't know, fog, mental
Blue,
fog.
Bloom
No, no,
Tender.
Bloom Tender, yeah, Bloom Tender. You will have the Rograk, Roger, in every form of the Roger decks, and so on. And so the fact that, of course, you're going to snipe one of each, it's of course not the best. It's not a board wipe. It's like a snipe or something like that. Uh, but the fact that it enables Darko, it enables Mox Opal, it enables things that are difficult to enable otherwise. That's the main thing that it kind of it's interesting because it enables you to go on a first turn. You go like, okay, I have Mox Opal. I had this hand, by the way. So I had Mox Opal, I had Lotus Petal, and I had a land. I passed first turn, land and Mox and Lotus Petal. And then, of course, everyone else had their say on on their development, and it was a Lotho, it was a Rograk, and it was a Bloom Tender. And then I had the ability to cast Dargon. I had a Mox Opal on hand. That immediately set up my turn to going forth and instantly change the turn order some in some way, and it enabled me to actually outpace Roxai. So, of course, it's an example, but it's a very technical example in a sense that they are not waiting or they're not expecting an instant speed board or not board wipe, but a snipe of the dorks. No one is doing that, and no one is doing that also thinking that Dargo is going to come up next turn. So that play pattern was very intriguing. So I really thought it was like something that maybe we should discuss.
I think it's far too situational. Like
Yeah.
Kellen, can
you
you
need.
pull it up real quick one more time? Sorry,
Yeah, you got it.
I'm like looking for it and I can't. It's not working
Shell
for
shock.
me.
Shell shock. I will
Yeah.
say, like, the benefit of the card, just like looking at it, it does create a board state out of nowhere, which is kind of nice. But like you said, Kellen, it is situational because if there's not 3 creatures to hit, or at least 1 creature per board to hit, it's kind of a waste of mana.
Rich punches one target creature.
So like, yeah, your
Yeah.
example
So it
is
has to
awesome
be
because it's
2.
like, yeah, I was in C4 and a Lotho and a Bloom Tender and a Rograk. Like, yeah, that's definitely a board state that people have, and that's definitely a thing. But if anyone gets any interaction up, they just go no, and now you held up mana. And I would also question why are we keeping a hand that is like no other mana other than Lotus Petal, Opal, and a land. And
Well,
see,
I had
Let me devil's
yeah.
advocate this real quick. Because I actually kind of like this because like it's at face value, it's 2 mana, right? Like it says deals X damage to those creatures. You create a token for each creature dealt damage this way. So it doesn't have to die. You can target, like whatever people play. The only thing that you're going to need is for people to play things. So I think this is, well, first off, I think it's a very meta specific card. I think if you're playing against a lot of Rog Thras and a lot of Sisay and a lot of other, particularly like onboard decks, I think this is actually not that bad because this could be like 2 mana, kill 1 to 3 things, make 6 Dargo mana. You're making 3 pieces of material for Dargo, and then like this would be it's a very very interesting setup. I'm not sure it's better than like if I'm going my turn one, I have my 2 mana and I could play my Ajani versus hold this up and try to catch people off guard kind of thing or whatever. Like I definitely think adding to my board state is better in general because we already timmed the deck. But I will say I think there is merit to thinking about like this is essentially 2 mana, probably, ping off 1 or 2 things, get a bunch of fodder, and then on top of that, your opponents are going to give you information because most likely they don't want your shit to die. And then if they do counter it, cool. You countered my fucking shell shock, and now I'm actually going to like cast a spell that matters.
No, you don't have the mana for that now.
Well, I mean, but if you're looking at this again, this is like 2 mana, right?
Right.
We
So on
make
turn
the
turn
best thing
two,
we do is make mana.
turn two. Let's say turn two you have 3 mana. You use 2 of it for shell shock. They counter it. Okay. Pass.
But that's why the tempo part's important to that, right?
But you already said that they're not killing everything. Then it's not a tempo piece.
Yes. So okay, if you are passing the turn holding this up, and again, I'm not saying this play pattern is good because like this is not my play style whatsoever. But I do think that there is like this is realistic to look at because you can go, like develop board state turns 1 and 2, turn 3. You can hold this up on end step. You can send this out. And what you're actually doing, you don't really give a shit if this resolves or not. What you're actually doing is you're probing for information. People don't want their shit to die. So they're going to tell you, hey, I have this thing, don't target this, or I'm going to counter it. Because most likely, they're going to want you to kill the other shit that you're targeting on other people's board states. So you could be like, okay, you have this thing. You can start talking with other people. Like, well, do you have a reason for me not to do this, right? Maybe they show you something. Like people are showing you stuff so to try and navigate the way that you use this spell because they don't want their shit to die. So now you're able to say, okay, yes, I'll work with you on the basis of I do this thing on my turn, or you know what, actually spend your piece because I don't think anyone else has anything, and if you do spend your piece, then I'm just going to actually play something that matters when I go into my turn 4.
It's almost
And
like
then if you don't, I'm gonna kill all your shit, make a bunch of fodder, and then I
No,
probably
you're
have
not.
enough
You're killing
material.
one of it. You're killing one of their shit.
You're
That's
not.
that.
It's up to.
for
Up
each
to
opponent, choose one.
Choose
yes.
one thing. Yeah, I'm not gonna
Correct.
care. If I'm Rockfast, I don't care. If I'm Tyam, I don't care. If I'm
That
if
you're
Rock gets
not
shot on turn 4, I don't care. Kill my Rock Wreck.
Kellen. You're not looking at it correctly. You're looking at
Joey,
it like
Joey. Try that again.
you are not looking at it correctly. I'm gonna say it again.
Okay. When I
Like
say
you
try
you
again,
need.
I don't mean repeat the. I don't mean repeat the insult. I mean, I'm
It's not
looking
an
at this.
insult. I'm trying to
Choose
pitch
up
it to
to
you a
one
different
target
way.
creature. So each creature by turn 4, I get to choose one thing per board. And if 2 of them say I don't really care because they don't, then great, to do the thing. Why am I doing that? I'm not saying it's a terrible card. I'm not saying it's a bad card even. I'm just saying that also many of your reasons like, well, I get to politic now. You're a turbo deck, dude. If I'm playing control against you, I'm not giving it to you. Like you don't help my board. You don't help do anything, and you're gonna remove my Rograk. It's turn 4. I have 2 wrist excities. Why do I give a shit? I don't care. Do the thing.
Well,
They,
this
like
definitely goes into philosophy because people yes, like you're a turbo deck, typically people don't want to work with you, but at the same time, they also don't want to use their interaction on you because they know the next player can just win the game. So if you have a piece of agency that says like, hey, tell me something, or I'm going to do this thing, it
Do the thing.
actually helps them to tell you. No, but
Yeah,
that
just
that
do the
might
thing.
be your outlook, but a more like if you're looking at like a different responsible player, they're probably going to say, "Hey, point it this way. I won't counter this spell because I agree that we need to deal with the issue X and Y. I'll
Okay,
eat
so
it
now I'm
here."
spending. So now I'm spending 2 mana for less resources. So now I don't get to target any of their things, and now I get 2 artifacts at best. So I don't get to actually
Um,
cast Dargo for the full thing now. I have to get another. That's
Okay.
again. This is a this I believe that this would be a heavy politics card, but in for my meta and my play style, this would be really really good for probing for information, which is where I would value this card.
so
And
what.
like if they counter it, whatever. Like sure, like they can counter my spell, and then I'll go into my turn 4, and then or my turn 3, depending on like what my setup was. But then I'll just push for the actual cards that win the game. But if they don't, then I tempo, you know, 1 to 3 players, and I get material so that I can actually still push.
Okay, but that's the thing. This is circumstantial of tempoing, and if this is allowed even to happen, or if they politic, or if they even care. Why? Okay, so better. Let's change the question here. What makes this better than Seize the Spotlight?
It's
It's one
instant
mana
speed,
less, an instant speed.
correct?
Uh, Seize the Spotlight can get rid of Kinnan for can get rid of Kinnan, can get rid of Draneth, can get rid of any creature of any size I want if they allow me to have that. Or I get
If
the treasure
there
and
there's an if there.
okay, like there's an if for this too. What's your point?
There's not an if. You're saying I'm doing these things and they can talk to you about it, and if they
If they
don't, then
have
you
a
do the
Kinnan,
thing.
if they have a Kinnan or anything that's greater than 1 power, now you're spending 3 mana. Yes.
Sure, but it's still the same scenario. You're tempoing 3 players and you're getting 3 pieces of material.
To if you don't politic them to say, well, no, I don't want that. So now you're getting 2 pieces of material or 1 piece of material.
No, it's not that. They're gonna say I don't want that, and you're say cool, use your spell. Or you can say, well, I'm sure you don't want these other things to live, so let's talk about it.
Uh, then why would I care if it's talking about other things? Again, what
Because you're
if I'm a Ragesh on with 2 Rhystic Studies and a Smothering Tithe, and you say Shell Shock, why do I care?
okay. Well, what we're looking at the scenario turn 3 and 4. They're not gonna have 2 Rhys 6 and a Smothering Tithe on turn 3 and 4.
You're kidding, right?
I'm
I
not
literally play.
kidding. That's actually
I
ridiculous.
literally played in a game where I was seat 4, and by my turn 2, there were 4 Rhystic Studies on the battlefield.
Okay, Kellen, you're
It's
talking about very subjective scenarios. Like I'm not,
brother.
I'm talking about on an
I'm
average.
talking about the meta that we are in, where every single game is a Ragesh, and the entire point of the deck is Rhystic, copy Rhystic, get Smothering Tithe. That is the entire goal of the deck. You're playing at least one of them every single game. If not that, then an NBC Kinnan, which is also Rhystic and copy the Rhystic. This
You
is
know what
the
else
meta we're
those
playing.
decks do? You know what else those decks do? They play Kinnan as early as they can. They play Esper Sentinels. They play Lothos. Like all of these flop decks, they play their creatures that generate value, which this hits. Yes, yeah, sure. I'll give it to you. If all 3 players at the table have exactly turn 2 Rhystic, this card is bad. But let's be real. All of your deck is bad if they have all Rhystic studies on turn 2. You're just in a
Oh,
bad pod, and you're probably not
that's
meant
not
to win the
true
game
though.
anyway.
That's
It
not
is
true
true.
either.
Then you have to have exactly silence and to win, and you have to hope that the 3 decks with Rhystic studies, probably playing interaction, don't have answers for your silence plus win. Like these subjective scenarios are ridiculous, and I'm just not gonna have this argument anymore. I think this card is good. I will say that I think that you should definitely be testing this card. I think it is very very intriguing.
Thank you. And thank you for your both of your input. The question was actually for both of you, so it was very enlightening to see the philosophy discussion. It was very nurturing.
Of course.
Does anyone else have a question? No? Cool. Great. That was the whole agenda for the town hall. So thanks for showing up. You did. If you have any further questions, you can go ahead and post them in the Discord. If you want to just ask specific questions to either Joey or me, you can post in that thread. I'll leave it open. I don't really care. Just tag one of us for any updating on the questions. Otherwise, I have nothing else to say.
Sweet. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Got a little heated at the end, but I love our daddy Kellen, and he knows that.
I'm sorry for bringing up this card and
No, dude, it was I look, I am a military guy. I will fight you tooth and nail for what I believe in. I don't give a shit. I do think the card has merit. I do think it needs testing, and I'm again completely honest. I think the scenarios that he was mentioning are quite frankly ridiculous. I think on an average that card is going to do quite a bit. So I do think that it should see some testing.
okay, that's great to hear.
Yep.
Okay, take care, Joey. Thank you all. Bye bye.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.